The 4th of July is one of my favorite holidays. We celebrate the birth of our nation with our family and our friends. Today I'm sharing some of the history of the 4th of July celebrations written by Elaine Walker, Wally Funk, Captain John C., and our founding fathers. Anacortes has a long history of hosting grand Independence Day celebrations. In fact, one of the first acts of the city's founders was to throw an elaborate 4th of July bash and invite all of the Puget Sound, and that was in 1890, 10 months before the boomtown was officially became a city. Patriotic celebrations have had their ups and downs over the decades, but today, thanks to the work of many volunteers, 4th of July festivities are more popular than ever. Still, it would take quite a bit of effort to top that first 4th of July in 1890. In his book, Pictures of the Past, Wally Funk described it. The town marked the 4th of July with a celebration that drew thousands of visitors from far away as Tacoma and Victoria. At the time, it was the largest such event held on the Puget Sound and won for the boom-driven city great praise for its historic gala. The grand parade included 4 bands, a horse-drawn float, and was photographed by D.B. Ewing, and is headed south on the plank streets and the sidewalks which covered P Avenue, which is now commercial. It was a Memorial Day that concluded with a spectacular fireworks display that priced out at about $500. All of it came from local pockets. That $500 translates to about $14,000 today, not too far off from the $20,000 needed for our 2020 fireworks, which we will do later this year, and we will celebrate Anacortes. The 1890s athletic competition included baseball games, a 100-yard and a half-mile race, a 100-yard race that was just for fat men, a 50-yard sack race, a tug-of-war, catching a grease pig, a baseball throw, wheelbarrow and potato races, a 2-mile canoe race, a yachting competition with more than 20 sailboats, a fireman's race with hose carts, 12-man teams that $25 went to the winner. The community of 3,000 hosted an estimated 5,000 guests that day. Independence Day parades and events were held regularly in our city, if not annually, until it was brought to a halt by the Great Depression. Civic activists and merchants such as Paul Revere, who missed the patriotic events and the economic morale boost they provided, came up with the Mariners Pageant, which was held in late July for several years, starting in 1937. There were parades, pirate girls, queen coronations, dances, a grand parade, water sports, including world champion water skiers, hydroplane races, tribal canoe competitions, and battleships at anchor. There were also stunts that made national movie newsreels, such as the mass wedding of 7 couples and a unique, hilarious cat putter otter derby. The event stopped for World War II and then made a couple comebacks that later faded away for good in the late 1950s. Events were somewhat less coordinated and less memorial for the next couple decades, although the fireworks at Flounder Bay were a hit with the kids. That was before Skyline was built. Anacortes museum educator and W.T. Preston curator Brent Lunsford remembers organizers with trash cans asking each carload of viewers to toss in some donations. In 1976, the Fidalgo Island Bicentennial Committee, chaired by Mrs. Ben Hughes, organized a big old-fashioned patriotic picnic, and the Lions Club hosted the fireworks at Flounder Bay. Events were low-key for the next few years, but it began to shape up in the 1980s and in the early 90s, largely due to fundraising and organizational efforts led by Felicia Childs, who became known as Mrs. Firecracker or Mother Red, White, and Blue. By the time Child stepped down, the event had grown into a patriotic picnic, a kiddie parade, and fireworks. And then in the early 1990s, the Anacortes women of today began to play a role in the parade organization. In 1994, Childs officially handed the parade and the picnic over to the Anacortes women of today, who expanded the parade to include adults, marching bands, community floats, as well as children. And after the patriotic speeches at Causland Park and various service groups presented sack races and pie-eating contests and other old-fashioned games, Donalda and the women of today still organized that event for several years. Then John Curtis came along. John Curtis of Bubba Suds and his family assumed responsibilities for the fireworks display. Merchants donated to the show, and for many years, the Curtis family sold fireworks at the stand at the car wash to raise money for the display. Curtis had a pyrotechnic license and supervised the show until his untimely death and accident in 2009. Today, the funds were raised to the Anacortes Parks Foundation, which oversees the fireworks. Also, in 2016, the Anacortes women of today turned the parade over to city staff, and we've been working with the community to put on the parade and coordinating with the Port of Anacortes for Rock the Dock for several years now. For 20 years, the Anacortes American has invited everyone in town to gather before the 4th of July parade for a mass town photo. This year, the city will be doing a virtual photo along with many other virtual events where you can learn, have fun, and celebrate our independence with your close family. Our sister city of Sydney has also had a tradition of coming to join our parade, and they have promised to be back next year. We will celebrate this year quietly and safely because of COVID-19. With Commercial Avenue lined with flags, family celebrations of picnics and barbecues, watermelons and hot dogs. Did you know that more hot dogs are eaten on the 4th of July than any other day in the United States? The first Independence Day was celebrated as described by John Adams to his wife Abigail in 1776. He described pomp and parades, shows, games, sports, guns, bells, bonfires, and illuminations throughout the United States. I also want to share a story of another Anacortesian, Captain John J. C., a Union veteran of the Civil War, who came to Anacortes in 1890. He came to Anacortes and he established a brickyard to build the Wilson Hotel and other Anacortes structures. In the May 15, 1890 Anacortes American, this article was printed about Captain C. C's new brickyard is to furnish 1 million bricks for the Wilson's new building. John C., the well-known Tacoma brick mason and builder, reached Anacortes less than 10 days ago with a plan for a new brickyard, having previously entered into a contract with David Wilson of Tacoma to furnish the latter with 1 million brick to be used in the construction of the Wilson Hotel building on P Avenue near 8th. Contractor C has not wasted a minute of time since his arrival. He selected a site for his new brickyard on the side of S&N track about 3/4 mile from the ocean dock. And the day following, the machinery was discharged from a steamer and he had it on the ground. It was set up and complete by Monday, and the clay pit was open. Next Saturday, construction of the kiln to burn 75,000 bricks will be commenced. And within a few weeks, the first consignment of the $1 million brick contract will be ready to be placed in the walls of the contemplated building. Mr. C is an expert in matters that asserts clay from which these bricks is burned. And this is the best brick making, and there is ample supply of it on this island. 23 later, Captain John J.C. gave a speech on July 4th, 1913. Patriotism is defined by me, the passion which serves one's own country, either in defending its rights and maintaining its laws and institutions in vigor and purity. Patriotism is a characteristic of a good citizen. When we examine the dedication that you have just heard, which was the first concrete statement of individual rights, we're forced to the conclusion that men who wrote the document were patriots indeed, and those who signed it were glad to be so inspired by the love of their fellow man and blessed with wisdom for the source of all power, as able to give expression to those feelings which animate in the hearts of those whose spirit of justice abides. 244 years ago, we heard these words in the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and they're endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, which among these are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. The Declaration was approved by the Continental Congress on July 4th, 1776, announcing the separation of the 13 colonies from Great Britain. On July 2nd of the same year, the Congress unanimously voted to be free and independent states. But because the Declaration of Independence was adopted on July 4th, that has always been celebrated as our national holiday, our Independence Day. This journey to independence started in earnest in April of 1775, when the Battle of Lexington and Concord erupted in armed conflict between Britain and the 13 colonies. They sought only their rights at that time. Few colonists consciously desired to separate from Britain. As the American Revolution proceeded into 1776, Americans came to believe they must secure their rights outside the empire. The losses and the restrictions that came from war widened the gap, and it was necessary for them to seek independence. The Declaration of Independence was largely written by Thomas Jefferson, who was considered a political philosopher. He wrote the first draft, and the Congress made substantial changes and then approved it. This document has served as our declaration of American political and social democracy. The Declaration of Independence has been a source of inspiration across the world. Marquis de Mirabeau, during the French Revolution, said it remained a great historical landmark, that it was the first formal assertion by a whole people to be self-governing. As we honor our history and independence, we also have some special activities for this year's 4th of July celebration in Anacortes. I want to share with you the virtual events at the city for you and your families to enjoy. This year, we will be celebrating our independence differently than we have before. I recognize the importance of sharing the history of our community and the independence of our nation. That is why we have so many virtual events for children and adults to participate in. At the library, we have options for all ages. This week's Digital Dive, highlighting transcribing project of the Boston Public Library. This project allows people to transcribe archival early anti-slavery documents into digital searchable documents. In this week's Digital Dive, we also have highlighted a book on anti-slavery or civil rights movement for every age group. If you find yourself interested in any of these books, you can reserve them and pick them up at the library through our new curbside service. This year, for the 4th of July, the library's focus is to invite people to learn and contribute to history while celebrating and reflecting on independence for all and the important topic of the moment. The The 4th of July learning opportunities for children are available virtually as well. For Leslie's story time, she's reading a special book highlighting a digital tour of the Statue of Liberty. For Pajama Story Time, the stories will focus on American history and equality. For our teens and our young adults, the library is promoting the release of Hamilton and other information surrounding the play. You can learn how this important play influenced new generation to look at our founding of our nation. We're also announcing our new book club reading Stamped Racism, Anti-Racism, and You. We will also be posting a Storytime Adventure Kit on Thursday. The kit includes a virtual tour for each state for the kids to visit, and explore. Children can participate in the activity to make their own family flag and post it in their window for people to see. We will encourage our community's children to dress up in their favorite stuffed animal in their windows for their bear hunt in patriotic gear. At the Parks Department, due to COVID pandemic, we're not going to gather for our usual town photo. But that doesn't mean we can't have one. We love this fun tradition, and we at the city want to keep this going every year, and this year it will be virtually. We have a great photo of 5th and Commercial intersection taken by our water maintenance crew, which we can use as a backdrop for our virtual photo. You can participate in this year's town photo by getting you and your family dressed up in your best red, white, and blue outfits and take a picture. Once you have the picture, you can go to the city's website, either on the front page or on the parks page, and find a link that will take you to the place where you can upload and submit your picture. Your photo will magically appear with you and your fellow community members in a mosaic next week when we make it live. The uploading process and submissions only takes a few minutes. Please join us in keeping this fun tradition alive. Please visit our website and call the Parks Department if you have any questions. And over at the museum, we're hosting History Scavenger Hunt to honor our city's history. If you're the type of person who loves a puzzle, you will love this scavenger hunt. The museum has 3 historical photographs for you to look at showing iconic locations in Anacortes, though some of the places look very different today. We invite you to be a historian and try to figure out where these were taken, only using the picture and the clue attached to each one. But that's not all. If you'd like an additional challenge, go to the location of each picture, take a selfie there. Please remember to wear a mask, maintain physical distancing. If you message it to us or post it under A Town Then and Now on Facebook or Instagram, we will post it on the letterboard on our website. Start the challenge on the museum's web page now. The museum is also sharing History in Anacortes, 4th of July on our website. If you're curious and want to learn more, please visit the museum's website. I want to thank Elaine Walker, who's been our town photographer for a number of years and the author of many historical articles online and here today. So happy 4th of July, Anacortes. So we're going to spend today to celebrate this incredible nation, our amazing community. We're so lucky to live in Anacortes, Washington, in the United States of America. Take care, have a wonderful holiday, and I'll see you soon.